Well, hello everyone, and welcome to week 6 here in the IDS 105 learning community. Today's session is going to focus in on what is due and how you can find it here in module 6, week 6. But we're also going to talk about putting that final project or your guidebook that you've been working on all term long together for your success, in addition to getting to know the academic support team and their amazing services that they have available to you as an SNHU student. First and foremost, your experience here at Southern New Hampshire University is important to us. It is our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible learning environment. If there are aspects of instruction or course design that present barriers to accessibility, please notify the Online Accessibility Center, the OAC, as soon as possible at 866-305-9430. You can also email them at oac@snhu.edu or visit the Online Accessibility Center website. Couple of webinar reminders. As always, these webinars are in an academic space, so always be mindful of your conduct. This includes your conduct in the classroom space, the first year experience YouTube pages, and of course, in SNHU Connect. These webinars are not mandatory, they're not graded, there's no extra credit points awarded, but I sure hope they have helped you complete your assignments from week to week, made you smile, helped you learn the concepts and where to find things, and had a little bit of fun. I know today's session was supposed to be live, but we had a schedule change and it is going to be lovely and ready for you on Monday of week 6 versus the live session. So as a reminder, there's not a live session for week 6. You guys get this pre-recorded on demand. That way you can view it as at your convenience in the very beginning of the week for your success. So let's talk first about week 6. Here in week 6, you have a journal assignment and a discussion assignment. No more project drafts. You finished the project drafts last week in week 5. So this week, as a reminder, journal assignment, discussion assignment. Please make sure that you pay attention to your journal assignment questions and the format that it needs to be in. You want to make sure you have that Microsoft Word, PDF, or something compatible for your journal assignment so your faculty are able to open them up and grade them. Keep in mind that for your journal assignments and discussion assignments this week, video note submissions are permitted. As a reminder too, in case you don't have it yet, Office 365, you get that for free as an SNHU student. With your discussion assignment, your initial discussion post is due on Thursday, with your peer responses due by Sunday, and then your journal is due by Sunday. If you want to work on those earlier in the week, you sure can. Just make sure you pay attention to due dates and deadlines and do what is convenient for you. So this week in the discussion board, you are going to be centering in on empathy. So your questions in the discussion board this week is, the first one is, how do you listen to others with empathy in the online learning environment? Or how could you? For some of us, we might be very empathetic. And that is something that we feel strong in, or maybe we need to dial it back a little bit. And for others of us, maybe we're not very empathetic and we need to work on that a little bit. So as you navigate this week's required resources, the readings, the video, and all the module content, you're going to pick up some tips and tricks, and you're going to begin to understand the concept of empathy. So again, your first question is, how do you listen to others with empathy, or how could you? So make sure you describe your thoughts in detail, use complete sentences. And then the second one is, how have others listened to you with empathy? So think about a situation or an experience or a time where somebody has listened to you with empathy. Like, what did that feel like? How did that go for you? This is just a really great exercise in being aware. You know, we've talked a lot this term about communication. We've talked a lot about diversity. We've talked a lot about new perspectives and getting uncomfortable or getting comfortable. And now we're going to add in empathy, which is really important to help you kind of understand where others might be coming from. So that's our discussion assignment. Initial discussion post due by Thursdays, peer responses, minimum of 2 due by Sunday. Your journal assignment this week is going to focus in on the topic of feedback. So as a reminder, your journal assignment is kind of a free writing assignment, meaning that there's not a template associated with this assignment. So you just want to make sure you have that one-page Microsoft Word document. And you want to share your thoughts in answering these 4 questions. Please keep in mind that some of these questions have more than one part, so make sure you're answering them all successfully and including your details and examples to help your faculty make sure that you're getting your whole point across. So the very first question is to describe your perceptions regarding receiving feedback. So when you think about feedback, like how does receiving feedback make you feel? And then the second thing you're going to answer regarding your perceptions with feedback is how can you improve your reaction to feedback? The second question is to describe how you can use past feedback to inform how you give and receive feedback now. So this again in 2 parts. A, what have you learned from past experiences in which you've received feedback? And B, how can you apply what you have learned to future feedback situations? So for example, maybe in the past you had a feedback experience that was awesome and you learned a lot from it and really felt heard and seen and appreciated. So share that. And then like, how would you be able to do that going forward in future feedback situations? Or maybe you had a situation that didn't go so hot. What was it like? How did you feel? What would you do differently for the future? Okay. Question 3 is to describe the impact that diversity awareness has on giving and receiving feedback when communicating and collaborating with others. Question 4, describe how you can use strategies for interacting with diverse groups of people as you give and receive feedback. Y'all, this ties directly into what we've been working on all term. All term, as you've been putting together those guidebooks, no matter what scenario you chose, whether it was personal, school, or the work environment, all of them centered around working with diverse groups of people. So now what strategies can you use, or how can you use strategies to make sure that you can interact with diverse groups of people as you give and receive feedback? So just some things to think about, like draw from your own experiences, draw from things that you have read this term or watched this term, draw from your own scenario and things that you've already kind of answered and went through, and just put together your answers in a way that is easily understandable by your faculty, and make sure you have details and examples. Be really helpful to get your point across. So as a reminder, your journal assignment is due by Sunday, but you can always turn it in earlier. Okay, so that's week 6. So this week for week 6, you have your discussion assignment and your journal assignment. What I wanted to talk to you about tonight is looking ahead a little bit into week 7. So all term, as you guys submitted those project drafts, right? We had 4 of them in week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. As you guys turn those in, those all build and connected to each other to kind of form your final project or that guidebook that's worth a significant chunk of your grade at 250 points. So what I wanted to point out as we begin to think ahead to week 7, your final project or completed guidebook is not due until the Sunday of week 7. Okay, so we're a whole week ahead. But I like to talk about it early so you can plan for your success, prepare to use any of the resources at your disposal, just to really make sure that you turn in a completed project that you are very confident and excited about. So first and foremost, you are not creating a new document. So all term, when you submitted those project drafts, hopefully you were using the template, okay? If you were using the template, you completed it week after week by answering those questions that were assigned in each module. If you did something a little creative and you answered the questions, but you didn't exactly like have it all in that template document, you want to make sure that you are just putting it together so that you'll have one document that has everything that you have submitted on those project drafts. Okay, so you're not creating anything new. I didn't want you to think you're starting over from scratch. You're taking what you've already done. So if you use the template, you want to make sure you use that template and those project drafts, because when it's completed, it's about 3 to 5 pages. If you kind of went away from the template a little bit, but still had all the same questions, all the same content, of course, you just want to make sure you put everything together so it flows seamlessly in one document that's about 3 to 5 pages. Okay. So what you're doing is, again, you're not creating anything new. You want to go back and you want to think like, what have you learned this term? Thinking of your scenarios that you picked in module 2, the conflict you chose in module 5, or maybe you used it all term, like what have you learned? Go back and look at your instructor feedback from the Grade Center with every draft that you turned in. If your instructor recommended that you needed to share more details or examples or expand your thoughts, or maybe you got off topic and you needed to kind of change some things or edit some things, this is the time to do that. because what you want to turn in is a cleaned up document of what you've already been working on. Okay, so you're not starting from scratch. You're not starting all over. You basically just want to make sure if one, you follow the template every week for the project drafts that you turned in and you use the actual template, you go back, double check that everything is how it should be. Everything, if you had any edits to change things or added things or update things, that you've done that, and you will turn in a completed template with all the sections filled out and updated from your faculty feedback, because that template will equal those 3 to 5 pages. If you did something different than the template, but still, of course, answered everything, make sure you compile it all into one document. So again, you're not starting over. You just have to compile it all together and make sure that each section is there. That's the biggest thing. If you didn't use the template, sometimes when students compile their work together, the drafts that they submitted, each individual one, they might forget something. So just remember, you're not doing anything new, okay? You are just going to go back, look at what you submitted, look at your graded feedback, see what changes, if any, need to be made. You might not have any, but if they need to be made, make sure you make them. And then when you get ready to submit for Module 7, you want a completed document that has everything on it and it's all cleaned up. My advice is also to submit it to the academic support writing team, to the written feedback team, and have them review it and give you any extra feedback that you might need for your success. So that's where you're using your resources come into play. Okay, so I know that's a whole week ahead. It's not till week 7, but I didn't want you thinking that you have to start all over or start from scratch or write something completely new, because you don't. You are literally using the template that you have worked on all term, or if you submitted individual project drafts, you're basically going to be compiling them all together. So you're turning in a completed template that equals 3 to 5 pages, all cleaned up, or you're submitting a complete submission with all of your project drafts, again, all cleaned up based off of the graded feedback from your instructor. Okay, so because we had a change in schedule, my partner for today's webinar was not able to be with me, but I wanted to introduce you to one of our fabulous academic support coaches here for our academic support team. This is Miss Allison Johnson. I love to share fun facts about our other departments because you guys get to know me every week. And I love to share facts about them because I want you to realize that they're people too. I know that sometimes it can be nerve-wracking to reach out to resources for the first time. So I know that this is her smiling face. She's an absolute amazing human. She used to teach high school English in a rural town that didn't even have a traffic light. So can anybody identify with that? I came from a small town also. I think our traffic light just blinked. I don't really know what it did. So she's used to being from those small towns. You know, she's been an academic advisor for online students just like you before she started working with our academic support team. She loves to work with students, all students, but she has a special place in her heart for students who have been at a school for a long time. She's really great at getting you back in the groove, especially of writing and making sure everything's ready to go. She's a huge fan of stand-up comedy and has a collection of old comedy records. I love that fun fact about her. But she's one of the many people and part of her team that are just here to help you. So what I wanted to do is just kind of guide you guys through how to access academic support and utilize their services. So know that you can find them directly from Brightspace. So when you log into Brightspace at the very top, you'll see that academic support. Click on it. It's not highlighted in yellow on your screen, but just click on it and it'll take you to their menu. So on their menu, we get a lot of questions all the time. Is academic support only for certain classes? Is it for any class? Like, is it just for IDS 105? It's for any class that you're taking here at the university, okay? And there's so much support options there. So you have 24/7 drop-in tutoring, which is where you can work with the first available tutor for some urgent content-related questions in different classes. There's also a content area you can select from a broad list, but there's tutoring options 24/7 that's convenient for you. The written feedback too, because it's one that is so important, especially as you're working on your writing assignments. The academic support workshops for you to utilize for your success, they range from anything on like citing your sources to like drafting essays. I mean, there's so many topics, I can't even think of them all off the top of my head, but there's a lot of really great workshops that students have told me they enjoy attending, again, at a time that works best for them. They also have some different more one-on-one tutoring options peer tutoring, but they also have academic coaching if you need a little bit more help, depending on what you need. If you're stuck or not sure what you might need, explore these options, click around on them, visit the frequently asked questions section, because there's just so much support. I know it can be kind of overwhelming, but just start with what you need. And one of the biggest things I like to tell students is to utilize the written feedback service. So when you click on that try it now, it'll actually ask you some questions about your written assignments, like when it's due, what's kind of the scope of the assignment. And then you can actually upload your writing assignment. It has to be anything that's SNHU related, okay? So it only can be university related content, but it can be for discussions, it can be for journals, it can be for papers, projects. Once you do that and you submit it, you will get feedback within 12 hours. So just keep that in mind, especially as you're working on these larger writing assignments like your guidebook. Even though you have worked on this all term and you're just kind of cleaning it up, put another set of eyes on it just to help make sure that everything is just where it should be. It makes sense to somebody who isn't you, so they make sense to somebody that is working through your guidebook and making sure that they understand it. And it's just a really great service to utilize, especially if you have been out of school for a while, or you haven't written academically for a while, or you struggle in that area. The written feedback service is just incredible. So I encourage you to check it out. Couple of things about your guidebook. I always like to ask Allison when she's here if there's any common mistakes that students should be aware of, or tips or tricks for success as they put things together. First and foremost, y'all, just remember to take a big old deep breath and use your resources. This guidebook is something you've been working on all term. Take a minute to review it, read it from the end to the beginning, have like a friend or family member or a colleague look it over just to make sure that everything makes sense. You didn't miss anything. Especially if you're copying and pasting for some reason, if you're putting drafts together, sometimes we miss a question or we miss a piece. So just really make sure that you double check your work from the beginning to the end and make sure that all sections and questions related to this guidebook are present when you turn in that final copy, okay? The other thing is just be yourself. As you work through this guidebook, it's here for you to utilize and look back on in case you encounter some of these situations moving forward. So remember just to take a deep breath, put it together, reach out for help, and double check things if you get stuck. As I said, we're talking about that guidebook submission a whole week early because it's only week 6 and it's not due till week 7. However, I know some of you out there will procrastinate until last minute. Where are you at? Raise your hands. This is where I wish I could see y'all. I love this quote by Don Marquise. Procrastination is the art of keeping up with yesterday. Y'all, procrastination is a skill set. It takes energy to put things off. And eventually, or some point or another, you may get burned by being a procrastinator. So I encourage you to work ahead on this if you can. Give yourself some flexibility. It gets busy this time of year. It gets busy this time of term. So give yourself some flexibility and work on it earlier if you can. However, if you do wait until last minute and you're not able to, for example, utilize the academic support written feedback services because you have less than 12 hours, loop in those friends, family members, colleagues to kind of look over your guidebook, double check it. You can even have a lot of the computer programs will read it back to you, just to make sure that it sounds okay and it's all put together. Remember, you're not starting from scratch. You're not starting over. You're just basically going back and cleaning up what you've already submitted through these last few weeks and just turning it in as kind of that final product. So just remember, the biggest thing is turn that project in. It's so important because it's worth such a significant part of your grade. Reminders, make sure you use that rubric, know how you're graded. Use the template. You've been using it all term. Again, if you have gotten creative and didn't use the exact template, just make sure that you compile a document that has all the pieces and parts on it for your success. Remember to use your resources. Reach out and ask questions if you're stuck. You have your advisors, you have your instructor. Y'all, don't be nervous to reach out to your instructor. They're the ones grading your work. So if you have questions on something, on their feedback, or if you needed to make changes or anything about the assignment, any assignment, but especially your final project, please reach out to your instructor. They will be one of the best people to help you make sure that you get what you need answered because they can see everything that you've turned in. Don't forget about the SNHU Academic Support Team, the written feedback tool, and so much more that they offer. Plus, you have these learning community videos that you can come back to and go through and watch again as many times as you want. But remember, be yourself, share your thoughts. That is all part of the experience. I wanted to take just a minute. I'm going to get out of here and I wanted to go into the IDS 105 classroom real quick and just remind you guys of where you can find everything. So as a reminder for Module 6, course menu, learning modules, go down to Module 6. When you do that, don't forget to click the blue, gets you to where you want to go, and work your way through the module content and all the required resources. As a reminder, you have that discussion this week, and then you have your journal assignment this week, okay? Looking ahead into Module 7, that is where you will find the guidebook, the final project guidebook. Remember, you've been already working on it all term, nothing new. But what I wanted to point out is you can click on academic support right here at the top. When you click on academic support, it pulls up those different services that are offered by the academic support team, okay? If you wanted to utilize the written feedback tool, for an example, you would just click on try it now, and it'll have you fill out this little form, choose a file to upload and submit it. That way they can get you in the queue and begin working on the feedback for your assignment. So I just wanted to point that out really quick as a reminder. Y'all, again, if you have questions, you're stuck, please reach out. I'm so excited for you to absolutely smash week 6 and do amazing. After that, you only got a couple weeks left and it's going to go real fast. So reach out, connect for your success if you get stuck. And remember, you got this. Have a great week 6.